Little Green Men and Flying Saucers, Mr. Drysdale's Martian publicity stunt. There are scenes in the long history of Milburn Drysdale's devotion to the Commerce Bank that still leave me breathless with a mixture of admiration and second-hand embarrassment, and the flying saucer publicity stunt of the New Year stands among the most gloriously unhissed of them all. I can still feel the particular quality of delight that rose in me the first time I watched Raymond Bailey lean forward in his chair and begin to unfold the plan. The eyes brighten. The voice drops into that confidential register he reserves for his most inspired transgressions against common sense. Little Green Men. A modified balloon made to look like a flying saucer, the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. 100,000 people in the stands and millions more watching on television. A booming voice demanding to be taken to the financial leader of the planet, the president of the Commerce Bank of Beverly Hills. Even now the audacity of it makes me laugh until I have to set the memory down for a moment and recover. The mid-1960s were years of intense popular fascination with the possibility of visitors from other worlds. Reports of unidentified flying objects appeared in newspapers with a regularity that kept the subject hovering at the edge of public conversation. Television and film had already begun to explore the comic and the ominous possibilities of contact. Against that cultural backdrop, Drysdale's decision to hire a troupe of performing midgets, dress them in green, wire their heads with mysterious antennae, and send them aloft in a disguised balloon feels both completely insane and somehow inevitable. Of course he would try to colonize the UFO craze for the benefit of the bank. Of course, he would see the Rose Bowl as the perfect stage. The only surprising element is that he has not attempted something equally extravagant before. Miss Jane Hathaway's reaction is the moral and comic counterweight that keeps the sequence from floating away entirely. Nancy Culp plays the secretary's growing alarm with exquisite precision. She has seen many of her employer's schemes. She has cleaned up after many of his excesses. But the combination of counterfeit money, aerial spectacle, and the very real possibility of federal attention pushes her past the usual limits of professional endurance. When she begins drafting a confession that will place the entire blame on her own shoulders, the moment is both funny and strangely touching. Her loyalty is absolute. Her judgment is sound. The two qualities are once again at war, and the war is visible in every tight line of her posture. The decision to hide the spacecraft behind Mrs. Drysdale's spite fence is one of those perfect narrative coincidences the series specialized in. The canvas barrier that was erected to keep the Clampetts from looking in now serves as the perfect screen for a project that must remain invisible until the decisive moment. The irony is almost too neat, yet it lands with the lightness of something discovered rather than constructed. Margaret Drysdale's determination to enforce privacy has accidentally created the ideal conditions for her husband's most public and most ridiculous performance. When the Little Green Men first appear in the Clampett line of sight, the family's reaction unfolds with the beautiful logic of people who have never been taught to doubt the evidence of their eyes. Granny sees them. Jed sees them. Jethro sees them. They are small. They are green. They have wires coming out of their heads. The conclusion is obvious. Martians have landed. The only remaining questions are why they have chosen the Drysdale yard and what they intend to do next. I have always loved the calm with which the family accepts the premise. There is no hysteria, no refusal to believe. The world has simply produced another strangeness, and the Clampetts will meet it with the same open-eyed practicality they have brought to every previous strangeness. Jethro's interpretation of the visitation is pure, unfiltered self-regard of the most endearing kind. The Martians have come. He decides to contact the largest brain on Earth. That brain naturally belongs to him. Max Baer Jr. delivers the conviction without a trace of irony. He has been waiting for recognition of his exceptional intelligence for years. The fact that the recognition arrives in the form of small green visitors from another planet only confirms the scale of his importance. The subsequent attempts at mental telepathy, Jethro concentrating fiercely, sending messages across the fence, receiving what he believes are replies, are among the most joyful comic passages in the entire composite. When Ellie Mae interrupts the transmission and is accused of scaring the Martians away, the moment achieves a perfect balance of absurdity and sibling truth. The preparations for contact reveal the family's deepest instincts. If visitors have arrived, they must be fed. Jethro begins assembling a basket of victuals large enough to sustain a journey back to Mars. Granny, though skeptical of the guests' manners, still contemplates the practical questions of hospitality. Jed considers the possibility that the little green men are simply out-of-town company that Mrs. Drysdale is ashamed to acknowledge, and that the neighborly response is therefore to invite them over and make them feel welcome. The logic is so completely clampered that it still produces a soft ache of affection in me. Faced with the unprecedented, they reach for the oldest tools they possess: food, welcome, and the assumption that most creatures, earthly or otherwise, will respond to decent treatment. I think often of the way the show holds the two simultaneous realities in the same frame. On one side of the fence, Drysdale is orchestrating a carefully planned advertising spectacle involving hired performers and a disguised balloon. On the other side, the Clamperts are preparing to greet actual Martians with grits and good manners. Both sides are completely sincere. Both sides are operating with the information available to them. The comedy arises from the perfect mismatch of their understandings, yet the series never forces us to declare one side foolish and the other wise. Drysdale's scheme is grandiose and reckless. The Clamperts' hospitality is naive and absolute. Both are allowed to exist in full, and the tension between them becomes the engine of everything that follows. The cultural appetite for UFO stories in those years gives the sequence an extra shimmer of recognition. People really did look up at the sky with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Newspapers really did run accounts of strange lights and unexplained craft. Government agencies really did find themselves answering questions about visitors from elsewhere. By placing a purely commercial exploitation of that appetite next to a family's wide-eyed acceptance of the same premise, the show creates a layered portrait of a moment when the boundaries between the possible and the promotional had become unusually porous. Drysdale is not inventing the public's fascination, he is simply trying to own it for 90 minutes over the Rose Bowl. Miss Jane's increasingly desperate attempts to contain the damage only heighten the sense of a machine that has already slipped its gears. She has the little green men, she has the counterfeit currency that will be scattered from the sky. She has a boss who has moved past the reach of ordinary caution. When she contacts Jed in the hope that his steady presence might somehow restore proportion, the gesture feels like a quiet admission that the usual structures of authority have failed. In the world of the Commerce Bank, the only remaining source of common sense may be the Mountain family that still measures every scheme against the simple question of whether it is right. As the hidden saucer waits behind the canvas and the little green men move through their preparations, I feel the familiar mixture of anticipation and protective worry that these late sequences always stir in me. Drysdale is about to attempt something that could bring federal agents public ridicule and the possible end of his career down upon his head. The Clamperts are about to welcome visitors they believe have crossed interstellar distances in order to meet them. Both trajectories are already in motion. Neither party fully understands the reality the other is inhabiting. And the show, with its customary generosity, refuses to rush toward the collision. It lingers instead on the separate dignities of the two campaigns: the banker's hunger for spectacular publicity, the family's hunger to meet the unknown with an open table. Even now, when I think of Raymond Bailey's face alight with the vision of a flying saucer demanding the president of the Commerce Bank, or of Max Baer Jr. solemnly broadcasting telepathic greetings across the spite fence, I am struck by how tenderly the series holds the entire extravagant mess. The comedy is broad and brilliantly sustained, yet underneath the comedy runs the same current of human wanting that has carried every previous episode. Drysdale wants the bank to be seen. Jethro wants to be recognized as extraordinary. The Clamperts want to treat strangers, even green ones, with the decency they believe every visitor deserves. None of these wants is contemptible. All of them are about to collide in the air above a football stadium and in the yard behind a canvas fence. And the show, as it has always done, prepares to record the collision with laughter that never quite loses its affection for the people doing the colliding.